Hello, Angry Spork here with Season 3, Episode 15 of Young Justice, Leverage. We started at the shooting of an episode of Garfield's show, Space Trek. It's the 16th take of the 16th scene of the 16th episode, and I find it funny because this is the 15th episode of the show itself. I don't know. Anyway, the director's like, hey, great take, but Granny whispers something in his ear and they have to do another take, and Garfield's kind of ticked off. So the director's like, hey, dude, you said something to Granny, so you want to fix that, and maybe this will all go away. But it's like, Garfield's like, no, I'm not the problem. It's not going to be fixed. Maybe I should just quit. And he's like, well, you're going to put people out of jobs, for one thing, and then that would be a breach of contract. So Granny would sue him so badly, the only green he'd have left would be on his skin. So they do take 17. There's a bit of a family moment at Artemis's place with her, Will, and Leanne. And as she's heading out the door, she's kind of looking at Will with this, and has this smile. I'm like, no, don't get shipped. Don't you get shipped. No. It's like, it kind of feels like it would just be out of convenience, not because of any actual affection, but, hey, they can always develop their relationship as the series goes on, hopefully better than some other series that have attempted that. Anyway, on the Watchtower, Beast Boy is teleporting in for his mission a little late because they had how many takes? 52! So did Dan Didio just, put a gun to Brandon Vietti's head and tell him to integrate the number 52 into the show somehow? Because it's not clever anymore, okay? It's not even ironically funny. It's just annoying every time I hear that number in one of these TC programs. Oy! The new team is gearing up for a strictly recon mission in Russia, which is kind of a point of contention since the Soviet Union at one time was, before it fell, of course, did not treat Markovia very well, but and they're there to investigate to see if they have a Russian equivalent to Bedlam, where they're housing metahumans for illicit purposes. But it's just as likely, as Aquaman says, that it's their version of the Taos Youth Center, which is where we go from there. And, there's this meeting with some metahuman teens headed by Edward Dorado Sr. and his son, basically the teenage version of El Dorado from the old Super Friends cartoon. He stops this blonde girl from leaving, telling her, hey, just give us a shot, hear us out. And he teleports from the door to the podium and to kind of translate for what his dad says. And, the girl sits back down to give him a shot. And basically, what they say is we know you've been through a lot, and we know it's tough. We want to help reintegrate you into society. We want to help you control your powers. We've got Dinah Lance and Megan Moores as counselors, or El Dorado, and I can't remember his name, the bald dude from season 2 that wanted to stay at the facility. They're also there to help counsel them as needed. And, they even say, hey, look, we got some collars that will suppress your powers, just like they had in Bel Rev. But it's your call. If you want to turn your powers off completely, you can wear these. You don't want to wear them at all? Don't wear them at all. So I actually like that. I mean, they have provisions in place that might seem a little excessive, but it's their call. Kind of trusting them that they will make smart decisions. On the other hand, it does open itself up to some possibilities that maybe aren't so autonomous. Like, maybe someone gets frustrated with someone else, puts a collar on their neck to inhibit their powers. That's kind of like a worst-case scenario type of thing. One of the lighter worst-case scenarios, let's be honest. But I actually do like that they did that. So the blonde girl is like, oh, she's smiling, she's cool with it. I don't know if this is supposed to be someone in particular or if it's an original character. So the team, led by Artemis, lands at the Russian facility, and Brion and Terra use their Earth-based powers to kind of tunnel their way inside. Halo camouflages them, and thanks to some really, really advanced contact lenses, they get Russian subtitles. What's the facility called? Area 52. This soldier who's got some, gear strapped on him. I think the cartoon Centurions might be a little bit too obscure for some of you, but slightly reminiscent of that. He's being told by this colonel who's already in this red armor, it's like, this is a big step. She acknowledges the guy is a volunteer, and they want to make a team of heroes to rival the Justice League, or put them to shame in heroics, to become part of the Rocket Red team. Process is very painful, but hey, he'll have some pain-killing drugs to help him through that. So Artemis takes the team out. Brion doesn't like that because he figures they're just going to be propaganda pieces for the Russian government. But Artemis is like, hey, they want to be heroes and they're volunteering. There's nothing we can do. This was strictly recon. Speaking of recon, Beast Boy notices that Monsieur Mala, Captain Boomerang, and Black Manta are just outside the facility with a rocket launcher pointed at it. And they weren't supposed to engage in any combat, but they don't want to just let these people get attacked. So they block the missile, and the explosion is enough for the colonel to fly herself out there to see what's going on. And the volunteer is like, yeah, I'll go through the process. No drugs. There's no time. Oh, boy. It is freaking... they weren't kidding. I guess they basically have to live in those suits, which is kind of insane, but what are you going to do? So the team engages, and Black Manta still hasn't forgotten what happened concerning Tigress and his son a couple of years back. Captain Boomerang says something that briefly triggers a memory in Halo, and she pauses just long enough to take a boomerang right in the chest. But she heals, so the villains retreat. The team is about to hightail it themselves, but now 2 Rocket Reds are telling them to stay where they are. And Brion's like, oh, well, we're going to have a rumble. And Artemis is like, no, we have nothing against the heroes of Russia. Don't want no fighting. So Manta, Mala, and Boomerang are watching from a distance, and they're talking to someone over communications, and someone who does not recognize the young ladies on the team, but does recognize the Green Rhino, because of course, and the exiled Prince of Markovia. Black Manta, however, enlightens that Tigress is the youngest daughter of Sportsmaster and part of the Justice League's covert team. Something that comes as a surprise to this voice. She's not sending Colonel Flag to extract them because they had a mission of attacking the base, getting the Rocket Red Brigade technology, and putting a hindrance on Russia's plans. And they're not going to leave until they do that. So I think we can all guess who that voice is. Oprah Winfrey! We spent a little time with El Dorado at the youth center, and he's talking to a bunch of other teenagers. I think they were all girls, including the blonde, the British blonde. And he's saying, hey, Newt, the bald guy, he doesn't have his powers anymore, but if they ever came back, he'd want to wear the collar. but he emphasizes it's, still their choice if they want to wear one. And in his own experience, he didn't like his powers for the longest time, but he's accepted them as part of who he is. It also clarifies that Newt was the guy that almost destroyed Central City. It was the episode that introduced Bart Allen into the series. So he's like, he's shown so rarely. He's easily forgotten. The blonde girl, she apparently has the ability to control wind because she does a little tornado with her hand, and she says she would never want to wear a collar there for pets, and she kind of exchanges smiles with El Dorado. So, maybe budding relationship there, or maybe they'll just be friends. Who can say? So, just as Tigress is trying to convince the two Rocket Reds that they're not a threat, they don't mean any harm, that's when the villains attack again. And they basically take out the armored Russians, and Halo puts up a shield to defend her team, but, she's still kind of weak, so she's losing a bit of strength there, and that's when, under Artemis's command, Forager opens up with ship's weapons, which is pretty awesome. It gives Gamma Squad the time to launch a counterattack, and I briefly saw that Beast Boy changed into a weird-looking creature, and typically he's not able to turn into mythical animals, but then I remembered, oh wait, he spent time on planet Ran, so I'm pretty sure he turned into one of the animals from that planet, which is, nice addition to his repertoire. Mala gets taken out, Boomerang gets taken out, and now the Aquaman arch-enemy is the last Manta standing. He's felled by a tandem attack by the two Rocket Reds. So with the villains taken care of, the Reds are looking to apprehend our heroes. One of them recognizes Beast Boy from his show, which is kind of hilarious. And they don't believe that they're on the up and up, that they mean no harm. And Artemis says, "You could take us in, we won't resist, but word will get out that your top secret facility was discovered by 2 covert operations on the same night." So the Rockets let them just take their bad guys and go. We go back to the youth center where Dorado Sr. is observing 3 of the teenagers in a contained area to help control their powers, and his son, El Dorado, is right in there with him. And Livewire is like, she says that they've decided to give themselves alternate names. Like Livewire and her friend, the white-haired girl, is called Mist. She can turn into Mist. She basically leaves her clothes behind and becomes Mist. And the British girl is like, those are your superhero names? And she's like, yeah, let's go with that. And so the British girl decides to call herself Windfall. And she starts whipping up a small tornado. And, El Dorado's like, hey, tone it down. She catches Mist in the whirlwind. Because Mist and Livewire are at least friends. She zaps Windfall and gets her to turn off her wind. That lets Mist go back into her clothes. And tensions rise, and as a result, Windfall starts going the other way. She's sucking the air out of the room, and just before everyone can asphyxiate, El Dorado teleports her outside, and she's pretty traumatized by it herself. She considers herself a monster, and El Dorado's just kind of in complete shock. So Manta and the others are taken to Bel Rev Parish. I'm not sure why it's called that now. Brief back and forth between Manta and his son, the new Aquaman. And he radios to Artemis that the new warden didn't exactly give any information, but the impression was that he had no idea that these villains had escaped. He's approached by Amanda Waller, and they have a back and forth that basically confirms, yes, this is the Suicide Squad, also known as Task Force X, and she more or less admits to Aquaman that she has her own Black Ops squad, but she also knows that the League has their own, and if they expose her, she exposes them. And with public opinion turning against the costume do-gooders lately, she might have a better chance. So even though Beast Boy has some objections, they're going to keep mum about it. Dr. Jace is shown a facility by a guy I don't really recognize. He's got like these weird apparatuses on his shoulder blades. This might be like Mr. Terrific redesigned, but I'm not 100%. The color scheme of his costume is kind of reminiscent of Mr. Terrific's, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I know he had like whites and blacks and reds, but it doesn't look a thing like him otherwise. So I was just spitballing because I know he's like one of the smartest people in the DC universe. So I figured maybe have him have a little cameo with the scientist lady. And later we see her extract a hair from a brush, which I think is Halo's. So it seems a little nefarious on the outset, but since she's trying to figure something out for Cyborg, it kind of makes sense. She might want to study a Halo because she's integrated with the mother box. Also, there's a brief scene of Beast Boy on his laptop, and he looks at that image again of the purse snatching he stopped, and it's gone from 16 million likes to 52 million likes. Oh, it went to 52.1. I guess everything's okay. At the youth center, we briefly see El Dorado with Mist and Livewire and Windfall. Mist and Livewire, they get up and they leave because the other one almost killed them, and Windfall is just sitting there sullen because she's got a collar on. And Then we go back to Star City, Artemis and Will's place, and Leanne is feeding a spoonful of ice cream to Artemis, and they got such big freaking, like a big old bowl of like 5 or 6 scoops of ice cream. They eat a lot of ice cream in this house. That's not healthy. I like ice cream too, but I usually just get it in this little cup, let's fill it up a little. That's it, okay? How do they stay in shape eating that much ice cream? How is Leanne not rounder? How is she not basically an orb by now? And of course we see Artemis looking longingly at Will again. So I'm thinking they're going to try and turn things a bit more romantic. The only other thing I can think of is that maybe they're trying to hint that she wants a family too, and she admires the kind of man Will is. But it's I don't know. They can still develop this in a way that I'll be fine with, but it's I just find it a bit cliched that, hey, here's a person, there's a person, they're within 5 inches of each other, they must have a relationship. Halo's still a little tired from the battle, and Brion goes to help in the kitchen, kisses her on the forehead, and says that he's just so happy that Violet came into his life. And Violet's flashback gets elaborated upon. When Captain Boomerang said, "Hey Sheila, I've got a proposition for you," she remembered a guy back in Markovia that said, "Hey, I've got a proposition." Hands her the old stack of monies, and then later we see her opening up the palace doorway to let in that speedster that ended up killing Brionne's parents. Yeah. That is, I mean, before you could say that maybe she was opening the door to, like, go outside or, get something, drop something, or something like that. And then that's when the bad guys came in. But this is, oh boy, this is pretty definitive. She and before she died, she did something pretty, I sincerely doubt that someone said, hey, here's some money, let us kill the king and queen. And she was like, okay. I mean, maybe, because we did see flashbacks before of her being mistreated because she's Bialian. But it's like, and you don't, and like, I've come to like like Violet as a character, and it's one of those things where, like, you don't want a character to have done something that bad. But even if it's like someone she was before, but I trust Weissman and Vietti and the team on this show. This is going to be some good storytelling. I have faith in them. And, oh yes, and the credits roll over Bruce Lee sleeping on the couch. Another good episode, lots of fun action, and some interesting revelations. I will see you for the next one. Later.